What?
I forgot to unmute us. So we've been talking this entire time. Thank you, Wes. Um, let's go back. I'm Dave. Welcome to Grimwood. This is Luke. Luke is a Patreon and developer of Pirateborg. His Patreon is basically a whole bunch of cool, awesome maps and some really nifty adventures. I've played a couple of adventures from.
Which ones have you played?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I just played one uh for a whole bunch of friends because she was looking at Pirate Borg. She got it at PAX West, and she's like, "I want to play Pirate Borg," and
Yeah,
nobody wants to play Pirate Borg. I'll run it for you. And
yeah,
we ran one of your adventures because I didn't have time to come up with one on my own. I can't
nice.
remember which one. Um,
That's
I
okay.
think Dead Man's Treasure. That one of them?
Dead Man's Battle of Dead Man's Cove.
That yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, nice, nice.
So um but he went through a whole cool story about how he came around, but and you missed it, so my fault. Um if it wouldn't be live without messing up. All right, so you have this expansion. Is it right to call it an expansion?
Yeah,
Fireball?
yeah. I mean, yeah. Expansion is like it's tough because there's a lot of things in the book. There's four adventures really. There's new player classes and player options. There's house rules. There's a bunch of random generators. So yeah, I guess expansion is like, I don't know. Expansion isn't usually a term that gets used in the TTRPG
No,
space.
but that's kind of what it is from what I saw. It's
Yeah,
kind of like a here's some extra cool things that you can attach to add on. I
yeah.
think that's
And
more of what we call it.
I think it makes sense. It's not just an adventure.
No,
It's a lot more than that.
though the adventures do sound cool.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, but then like I was mentioning before we went live that it's Down Among the Dead as a hardcover a book expansion book, but we're also doing a starter set, and everything in the starter set is designed to combine with what you already have. So there's really nothing. It's not like, sometimes you get a starter set and like, well, I already have the rules. I don't want like half the rules. Well, people who have Pirate Borg know that the rules fit on 2 pages.
right.
So we have a player booklet that is basically all the player facing rules and all the character creation rules in one booklet. And then we have a new adventure called Trapped in the Tropics, which is kind of a like, I wouldn't say full campaign, but it's going to be several, like enough to get you really going. Um, so the idea is that this box combined those two things combined with like character sheets and character creation dry erase sheets and dice and maps and tokens are designed to be like, we're calling it the starter kit, but it's really more of a like it's the like in-person add-on. Like when people come and run Pirate Board games for us in the future at conventions, we're just going to give them a starter kit and maybe whatever adventure they're running, and they'll have like everything the table needs to play because it's got
Everything in it.
yeah. And it was really important for me as a huge fan of this industry to make something that didn't feel like when you get the D&D box set, it really, or the starter kit for D&D, like you can tell you don't have the game, you can tell.
Yeah, I
And even
mean,
even with DCC, like DCC is a great product line. Their quick start rules, like, well, yeah, this isn't the real thing. Well, the Pirate Borg starter set is the real thing. It just doesn't have like the big sandbox adventure and 30 pages of GM tables in it.
right.
But you can, I suspect there will people who buy the starter kit for people for Christmas and stuff who will never get the core book because there'll be enough in that to get the arc that they want. Hopefully, though, people will be like investing further in the line and joining our community and
I
playing
hope
in
so
longer campaigns.
because
Yeah.
your community is awesome, and I love Pirate Borg.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could I could I Wes asked me the other day what games that I would take on a desert island.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes, that
the
too. Yeah.
one of my things was I said, what did I say? I can't remember, but in my head I was like, or Pirate Borg, or Pirate Borg, because
Yeah.
I could convert. Oh, I said Easy D6, but I was like Pirate Borg. I could convert into anything I wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for
Like
me, that just is Morkborg. Like that,
Morkborg,
it's
yeah.
just yeah. But I
But
mean, basically, Morkborg is basically BX with a few minor rule changes and really pushing the like hack it mentality. Like it's just really, really clear that that is the
how did
vibe
you
for.
choose Morkborg to do your game?
We
Why?
were so I was running my 5e game and running the Patreon and getting burnt out because I was basically like making maps all day, and then I was not running a like OSR style game. I was running like a 5e full Foundry, full battle map, campaign, and I was just getting fried. And I was like, guys, I need to take a break, but like I don't want to take a break from hanging out. Like this is one of my favorite parts of the week was meeting with my group, and my group is all GMs. So we did a month of about a month where all the players besides me ran. This is right as Mandalorian was hitting, and we ran Star Wars 5e like one shots, but where we were all the same crew, but whoever the GM was, their character was not in that episode. But I got
Nice.
to play like a Wookiee berserker dude and rip people's arms out of their sockets. So we had a blast. But then when we got done with that, I like wasn't quite ready to kick back up the campaign. And Kevin, one of our players, was like, "Hey, can I run this like weird Swedish game I got?" And like I think back then, this is like 2020, people like Morkborg, like it had won the Ennies, but it wasn't like people like know it now. And back then it was like, what is this? Like, is this really is this really a game? Like there's so few rules. It just feels like not a full thing. And we played it. We played 3 sessions, I think, and it was like the most fun I had ever had. Our whole group had ever had playing a role-playing game, like in our lives. And then I kind of got the bug in my ear of like, man, I could probably like that, Morkborg has a really fully open license. And I was like, I could hack this into pirates and it would be, I should just do a zine and kickstart it and then get back to working on the Dark Caribbean. And, one thing led to another. And then it went from like a little yellow book to like a kind of big parchment matching my map style book. And then the Kickstarter went and then it, you know, uh,
Mhm.
got published by Free League. And now it's like, I think it was the 10th highest selling role playing game in the States last year. So,
Nice. Well deserved, by the way.
well, thank you. I mean,
Uh,
it's like I still don't quite believe it, but mostly it's like I just made the thing I wanted to exist, and I guess other people wanted it to exist too. So,
well, we were missing that easy to pick up pirate game. I mean, we had Seventh Sea, but Seventh
yeah,
Sea is not easy to pick up.
it's not easy, but more so than that, for me, Seventh Sea is not the same kind of game from a theme like top down perspective. Like,
Absolutely.
I want to be a terrible pirate, and I want to like do drugs and drink and kill skeletons, and the world is ending, and those are all things that are in Pirate Borg. They're not in Seventh Sea, and I mean I'm
So
sure there are undead, but
I did my first pirate board game. It was live. I was live streaming it,
Mhm.
and I sat there and before we went live, and I went, "All right, you guys will die in this game,"
Yeah,
and they didn't believe me. And the very first roll was somebody got shot in the head because they stuck their head out while during a gunfight.
yeah, yeah,
It was awesome.
yeah. I mean, I think it takes a little bit of adjustment, especially people who coming from like long careers of playing a D&D campaign for multiple months or years. You can definitely do that with Pirate Borg, but there's a
So,
much more likely that you'll play different characters over the course of that campaign.
by the way, your Foundry system, Fireboard, superb.
Yeah, I honestly really lucked out. I've been a big Foundry supporter since pretty much day one, and all of our maps get turned into Foundry. But somehow these guys, Blair and Loner, like wanted to help with the adaption. I was planning to like do it myself and learn how to do it. This is back when Pirate Borg was just me, and I didn't ever know if
Right.
anyone would care. But those guys are like, I think they're both software devs during their day jobs. And Loner did the like original writing for it. And then now Blair maintains it. And I've met Blair in person when I was down in Australia. Like he is a good buddy of mine now. He's thank you so much, Blair, if you're listening. Like the amount of work that's in it now really makes it like streamlined. So you can,
It's
do
super
things like
awesome.
make
Okay.
make a new character.
So going back to your expansion, um, you have a set of house rules. Are these rules that you actually use yourself, or are these rules that you just have heard other people using?
It's a combination. Some of them I have not used but will use. Others are, I mean, it's a little bit different for me because when I'm running Pirate Borg, it's either for a group of friends who want to try out the game that I made, that's pretty common, or it's at a convention for either new people or like I don't want to say VAPs, but like often now at conventions I'll be like, oh, I'm running for like I ran a game at GaryCon for Legends of Evantris guys, stuff like that, or it's a playtest thing where I'm either playtesting an adventure I'm writing, or I ran a whole campaign in the first half of this year that was a playtest for Dark Caribbean. And in all of those scenarios, you want them to get the like written experience because, like if I were running a Pirate Board game just for fun and I were running like, let's say Dark of Hot Springs Island or something for my like gaming group, that would be a scenario for me to use those. But usually I just stick to as written because that's kind of what, especially if you're playtesting, you want to get
Okay, yeah.
the experience that other people will get. That being said, though, there are a lot of things that I've discovered in the process of running so many games and running so many games at conventions that we would change now if we did a second edition, or that I think make the game better. Things like, for example, the ship hit points, I think are well designed in the game for a very survivable, realistic experience. But like, and in reality, naval combat would take sometimes days.
Right.
But I think when you're playing Pirate Borg, sometimes you just want to blow up ships. And so there are rules for cutting ship hit points in half, making damage there more deadly. Things like armor, like I find the armor mechanic in Mork Borg to be a little bit sloggy sometimes because character weapons are pretty small. I mean, like the highest weapon you can get in the game is like a D10.
Right.
It's higher in Pirate Borg with the muskets and stuff. But when you have a D10 as the best weapon and it can break on a 1 and the enemy has D6 damage reduction, like it can really slog on. So we have rules in there for switching to an AC system, or like, not rolling at all and just taking the minimum roll, things like that. But there's also more fun ones too, like how to, if you have, in Pirate Borg, when you drink grog or rum, you have to make a toughness test. And one of them is if you drink it in reality, your character doesn't have to make the test. So it kind of depends on the kind of game that you want to run. But
Nice.
yeah, those are a lot of fun to write. A few of them come from the community. One of them comes from Cyborg about damage, always hurting, always doing some damage. Hits always hurt is what it's called. So like if you hit, no matter what, it always does 1 damage, but that 1 damage can't kill you. And that helps with the slog,
Now you're gonna have some adventures in this expansion, and a couple of them are stretch goals, right? For the Kickstarter.
No, they're all in the book. The only stretch goal, the only content stretch goal related to adventures is that if we hit, I forget the numbers because we don't actually have them all figured out yet, but there's an adventure called Into the Maelstrom, which is a vampirate. It's like a first-rate ship of the line that's owned by a vampirate. And right now it's basically just a dungeon crawl. It's Castle Ravenloft on a ship. And I would like to expand it to be a little bit more like Curse of Strahd, where you've got some hooks that you can place on islands in the Dark Caribbean, maybe like a haunted jungle, sea caves, a few things like that, maybe just another 6 pages or so, 8 pages maybe. But like if this Kickstarter does just okay, I'm just going to move on to Dark Caribbean. But if it does really well, then it'll be like, well, a lot of people are going to be playing this, so I think it's worth giving the extra. I mean,
Nice.
it's a great thing either way. I'm very proud of it. I just, that's why you have stretch goals, to kind of gauge. Like with Pirate Board, we hit all our stretch goals and had to make more and then hit all of those. So I ended up writing another 30 or 40 pages for the book, but that was worth it because it was like, oh my God, this game is going to go everywhere now, So.
The idea of vampire pirate ship just was a brilliant one.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic because I made the map for this adventure so long ago, and I teamed up with Monkey DM to write an adventure for it. And he kind of went a different direction than I had originally envisioned. But then the first thing I ever play tested for Pirate Borg was on this same map. I ran it. It's actually why I switched from it being a yellow book to being like my own kind of color scheme. because I was looking at this bright yellow and pink PDF for Pirate Borg, and it like did not match my like old, Vampirate ship map. Um, but now I've finally gotten around to like writing a full adventure for it and laying it out, and it's going to be. I'm hoping to have the alpha out before October, so people who are patrons can explore a Vampirate ship over their for their Halloween, adventures.
DM tells us he wants a Pirate Borg adventure about trying to find missing.
I mean, isn't that every Pirate Borg adventure?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I feel like that's like baked into the setting,
So you keep mentioning Dark Caribbean, so let's talk about Dark Caribbean if we.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I'm super excited about this.
Sure.
So Dark Caribbean, for people who don't know, is basically the world that Pirate Borg kind of takes place in.
Yes.
And it's basically a alternate world of the Caribbean.
Yeah, the tagline I always say is it's Earth, just not ours.
Right.
I mean, yeah, alternate timeline, alternate plane of existence. Maybe more of like a Rick and Morty. It's just an alternate dimension.
It's super awesome. How much of it is fleshed out?
You mean like how much is already written?
Yeah, not really written, fleshed out, because you can flesh something out without writing.
I'd say most of the core elements of it are fleshed out. I mean, you see a lot of this in Pirate Borg. Like the core factions are explained in Pirate Borg and their 2-page spreads. The calendar of the Dark Caribbean, the history of the Dark Caribbean as it unfolds, if the players do nothing, is what we always say. That's in Pirate Borg. A lot of those things are like, you don't know what they are in Pirate Borg, and nor do I tell you, but you'll find out in the Dark Caribbean. Like, for example, a mysterious figure with, eyes as black as night. It emerges from the Yucatan at one point.
Right.
And well, in the Dark Caribbean, he'll be detailed. He is detailed. There's one of the things that we're planning to do. I mean, I'll give you an overview of the book. Basically, it's going to be a 300 plus page setting book. There are 54 NPCs. Usually 3 to 6 from each faction or sub faction. The Brethren Court get 12 because it's Pirate Borg,
Right.
Then every major port and every major island or island group will have a detailed spread or spreads in the book, so that you'll be able to be like, okay, my players want to go to Nassau. What's there? Nassau's already written, actually. Tortuga's already done, but like, if they want to go to the dungeon city of Maracaibo, there'll be a bunch of maps from Maracaibo and adventure hooks and stuff like that. And it's very much a book that's designed to be used at the table, so you don't have to have read the whole thing, or really, I'm hoping you don't have to have read much of it at all, other than the intro, to be like, okay, well, we want to go here. Okay, well, let me go there. Well, here's what you see and what's happening. Oh, this is what's happening.
Speaking of which, your adventures in your venture hooks are superior.
You mean like at the beginning of?
Yeah, like you have like roll tables and stuff for like different. I'm trying to think which adventure it was, but you had like a whole city, and you had roll tables that you could introduce to players, and it completely threw my players off the path of the adventure, but it was so much fun.
I'm really curious which one you're talking about. Do you remember what it looks like?
Remember, it's I think it's the one from the Pirate Borgs.
Black Coral Bay.
Black Coral Bay.
Yeah, the name of the adventure is Curse of Skeleton Point. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. You have in it like a map with the city. Yeah, Coral Town.
Coral Town, yeah.
And in it you have like these great rumors and stuff that just threw my players to a whole different campaign.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do very much consider myself a student of RPGs, RPG design, and especially the OSR. So I spent a lot of time reading, a lot of time listening to podcasts, and thinking about how to do these things the best way possible. There's a lot of adventures that have hooks, and a lot of the hooks are shit. So I feel like a hook needs to it needs to grab your players, it needs to give them a reason, and it needs to like have some kind of baked in consequence, all in like one sentence. That's the idea,
Right.
And Pirate Borg is all about emerging gameplay. We see that in that adventure. Like, look, that adventure is a big adventure. It is a full island with like 4 or 5 locations, that not including the 3-level temple that they might find.
Right.
And there is a timeline if the players do nothing, but that's only to like show them that the world is living without them. Like if they don't go help in the first round, if they don't go help the priest that runs the church, get rid of the undead in the castle, he dies trying to do it, and then he's dead. If they a few weeks or however long later you decide they don't help the pirate captain, he gets killed in a naval combat with the British. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, same with that book, but also in the Dark Caribbean, I really want to show through the progression of the untouched setting that this is a live breathing world, but like it really is a sandbox, and that you get to decide, are you going to try to end Armageddon? Are you going to embrace it? Are you going to get rich in the process? Are you going to join one of the sides that is influencing the end? Like those are all up to the player. And having come from years of reading D&D adventures where it's like, well, wait, what if they do this? Like, well, that breaks the adventure. Well, what if you don't write an adventure that way where nothing is broken? Like there's nothing, there's no, by giving the characters motivations, it's almost like writing a video game sandbox that's very, AI driven, where like, oh, we're going to give all these NPCs motivations and then watch them interact rather than like cut scenes and a big scripted arc.
Exactly. And you do that very well.
Well, thank you. And I mean, and I think that if people like what I've done so far, I hope that like I said this on Wes's podcast earlier today, but I feel like people know me now for Pirate Borg. I hope that in the future they'll know me more for Dark Caribbean, because that's the thing that I've always really wanted to exist, and the thing that we're like kind of just orbiting and building up to. So
I'm super excited to.
Yeah, I mean, you can play it now. It's just that there's no, unless you're a patron, there's not a lot of detail. And even then in the Patreon, like I only have a few of the locations released. I did release a thing earlier in the year that was summaries of every island. So at least you could be like, oh, I know that this and this and this are on this island. I know that this island has, well, I won't, spoil anything. I can't think of any specific ones, but
yeah, so you definitely, it's an interesting world. If people don't know it, definitely go take a look at it, because it's like it's breathing and staying.
Well, yeah, that's the idea. I mean, just if I can share a little bit from my, I got to run this Dark Caribbean playtest group earlier this year, and we ran for the first few months of the year, and then I really needed to playtest Down Among the Dead. So I had them, the first adventure is called Lost to the Locker, which is this, post TPK, post Maelstrom purgatory adventure, and I needed to play test it. So I was like, guys, do you mind if we like, kind of pivot? And of course they were all down. So they basically did this. We play tested this coral reef generator, and they ran into a great old one. And that guy, it was Dagon, and it basically killed them. And they woke up in purgatory. And then they played through my new adventure, which I got a bunch of great feedback on. But then when they came out of purgatory, they finally solved how to get out of there. I had them roll on the timetable to see how long they were gone. And they were gone so long that we advanced a huge chunk of the Dark Caribbean campaign. And I basically fast forwarded to like the end of the world. So when they come back, Nassau's been destroyed. They don't like Havana has had these huge fires, and they have to like kind of figure out like what they're going to do now in this new world. And it was really, really cool to like see the world change and see how the players interact with it. But then it ended up being like, this is definitely going to be spoilerly, but I feel like we're going there. So let's talk about it.
Okay.
So there is a Mazoan Lich on the Yucatan. And she is extremely powerful, but at the beginning, when you start your Dark Caribbean campaign, she's kind of dormant, because the Mazoans have fortified themselves in like walled off city states. So they're like, hiding away and not feeding into her necromantic powers. But as the Europeans arrive and start building these cities, she starts to gain more power as they die from sickness or whatever. Then she starts like, building these undead fleets, and all these skeletons just want to bring their bones to the Yucatan, to the dark Yucatan. Right. But conversely, you have this avatar, his name is Erebus. He's an avatar of the Dark One who is spewed forth out of hell to come reclaim or come prevent these undead from escaping from hell and, running, running amok in the Dark Caribbean. So my players basically got right in the middle of this, and they're like, half of the group are on Erebus's side. They've never consumed ash. They don't want anything to do with the undead. The other half are ash junkies, and they get summoned to come help the lich. So we end up doing this mega battle at the end where it's like demons and Erebus fighting this lich and her horde. And I had the players controlling both sides, and like all that is going to go into the books. So you get these hopefully get these big cinematic scenes that you can kind of recreate at your table.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the way I.
See, that's the thing too. I think some people are like, "Oh yeah, it sounds like it's a good game for one shots." It's like, well, it is, but also like, haven't you ever wanted to like sail around the Caribbean and build a pirate fort and then like take over, Port Royal? Like that's what you can do in this game. So,
speaking of like, it sounds. Do you have any recommendations for players who want to do a campaign, not necessarily a one-shot in Pirate Borg? Because I feel Pirate Borg's pretty deadly.
See, it's interesting that you say that because I've actually found it's not nearly as deadly as I thought it was.
Oh, okay.
We're running a West Marches campaign right now that's going to end on Talk Like a Pirate Day. It's an online West Marches. You can actually join in and play if you want. There's a few days left. But we have some players in there who get killed every session because they're weak, but the ones that survive early on are like max level now. Like they are almost invincible based on the, invincible. Not if I were there. You can always call the Kraken, but I feel like, especially compared to like BX D&D, it's much more survivable. Yes, okay. You can start with 1 hit point, but there's always devil's luck and you can always run away. Yeah, so I'm not
saying that you can't do it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And there are also player class options for after you're killed, which is not a thing in BX at all. Now it's clearly not 5e. But I always say, I think if I were giving some GMs some recommendation, I would say run Coral Town, or really run Buried in the Bahamas, and then take them to Coral Town and see what they do there, and then just start dropping in NPCs from the different factions. I know that's a lot easier. You can really only do that if you're a patron right now, and I'm not expecting everyone to be patrons and see the playtest material, but I think if I didn't have any of that, I would say, you know what? I want to pick these factions. I'm going to write some new NPCs for them. I'm going to make them all want conflicting things, and then put the players in the middle and see what they decide. Nice. Don't have a horse in that race. The British, they want ash for the West India Company. And the Inquisition wants to get rid of everybody who's not the Inquisition, especially the religious people like the Wretched. The French want revolution. Boom. Like you got 3 sides to a triangle. That's enough to run.
Play with that triangle.
Yeah, exactly.
Ironically, a triangle in the triangle area.
Yeah, so the Bermuda Triangle, which is called the Devil's Triangle, of course, is definitely featured in the Dark Caribbean. The one of the pinpoints for it in our world is Bermuda. It's also called the Isle of Devils in reality. So of course that's what it's called in the Dark Caribbean, and it's a volcanic island overrun by demons, of course. Of course. And the Sargasso Sea is a place to visit.
Is there anything else that you really want people to know before we end up? I mean, it's been 30 minutes. You've been talking. I don't want to keep you because I know you have another interview.
No, it's okay. I'm happy to talk. I had a whole nother hour scheduled, so it's fine.
Okay, because I could talk about Pirate Borg forever. And I'm sure you can too, because okay, so before the stream, I asked you a question, and I'm not sure if you don't feel comfortable answering it, don't answer it. But I asked you, is there anything else you would like to do besides pirate?
Oh yeah, so my answer off the stream was that yes, probably eventually, but that seems so far away from where I'm at now, because I'm just trying to get this Kickstarter at the door from the creative side so I can go back to working on the Dark Caribbean all day. But yeah, I'm sure there's a couple things. The one thing I was mentioning to you is that me and some of the guys from Archon Games have been kicking around a project called Arcane Skeleton Knowledge. We just kind of always chat about it when we're at conventions together, where you're basically playing as a very heavy metal kind of necroman or undead class. It's not so imagine like Dark Souls or medieval fantasy kind of vibe where the four core classes are necromancer, lich, um, death knight, and I forget the other one. Something ghostly. Wraith. Those are the
Wraith.
four core classes. Yeah. And my vibe is very much like this is not a campaign game. It's a short campaign game. It is a campaign game, but it's not like there's not a globe map. There's like a region. It's like a Elden Ring size map, And the idea is that you're trying to harvest the souls of the living. But you do it through I'm thinking about doing things like you don't roll to hit, and when you're fighting, each hit point is like a soul. Like, so you're not fighting like it's not like, oh, this knight has 10 hit points. It's like there's a squad of knights and there are 10 of them,
Right.
Like I like the idea that like you're undead superhero kind of vibe,
Nice.
So we'll see if that ever gets off the ground, but
when you start developing, do you always start with a map?
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's not even a map for that. When I imagine where is it,
Yeah.
I do imagine a map for it.
I was just curious because you're a really amazing map maker. So,
well, thank you very much. Yeah.
If people don't know, his Patreon is full of awesome maps.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of battle maps. I really enjoy making maps. I have found though, the more I play RPGs, the less I use battle maps. Just because of I just really don't like when it feels like a war game, and we forget about the narrative because of the can I move here and then move back to here? I hate that. Like I just want you oh, yes, you can do that, but what does it look like? Tell me the story,
Right.
And I found that sometimes battle maps discourage that kind of play. So I always try to walk the line. I was telling you before we started with the stream, my preferred method of playing is what I call art-directed theater of the mind, where you might show a battle map or you might even bring one. I have a big book of battle maps that we use to show off my maps at the convention booth, and I'll often bring that to a session and just flip to one of the pages, but then we won't put tokens down, or we'll put tokens down if we really need to know, like the logistics are really, really important. But I try not to always enforce that. So yeah. I don't know.
I've been trying a lot lately because I do a lot of online stuff. I've been trying to just do images of the area that they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've done that when I used to play on Roll20. I would like load in, you can Roll20, you can like make a dashboard of like, okay, here's 50 images. And then you can like, I forget the key command, but it's like control click or shift click or something. And it'll blow that one image up and show it immediately to players. So I would just like build myself a little dashboard and I would run that way. It worked really, because I'm like, art is a huge part of my role-playing game experience. And I feel like a picture's worth 1,000 words. Obviously, we all like creating spaces in our heads, but I feel like the difference between, I mean, just look at a book. Like if you read Dune is a great example. If you read Dune and then you go watch the movies, like the art directors did such a good job taking one sentence and blowing into like a whole world that I wouldn't do when I read it. So I like to do that as a GM. Like, hey, I might have said it looks like this, but here's a picture, and like, holy wow, so.
I totally, I'm starting to get that way in my old.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's laziness that's leading that way or just smart.
Well, for me, it's not laziness. Cause it's like, it's more about like, I find the experience for me and the players can be more enjoyable when there's less, things to get ready sometimes, I mean, because, things break and things like, oh, I can't get the file to load or,
really hate it when I have this cool, amazing thought process for my character and then just getting.
Yeah. That's always a problem too. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I like OSR games, because you can say yes a lot easier. I got so tired of 5e players like saying, oh no, you can't do that because of this, this, and this. Like, you really have to know the rules or play with people who don't care about the rules.
Right.
Or else your ideas get squashed. Like I remember I was trying to, I'm like, okay, you're getting ambushed by like Gorillons on a, the ship that's in the jungle, and be like, well, they don't get to ambush us because I'm like, what? No, that's what happens is you get like, have you ever seen a movie? You get ambushed, like, and you have to really, so now by not having rules for that, you can just say it happens.
Yeah, I really hate it when I have this cool idea and the rules get in my so.
Yeah, I mean the rules are there for a reason. Like I think some rules are good. I
Yeah,
don't want
oh,
them to
you
be.
got to have some rules, but I
Yeah,
mean,
you're not just playing like a storytelling, like make up whatever you want. Like the rules help us understand the world together and what you can and cannot do. But
absolutely. But I don't think they should also be. I
yeah,
won't
yeah,
mention what see.
yeah.
Um, but my channel knows that I hate WotC, so I don't mind 5e. I just
Well, I think there's probably reasons for that.
but so the Kickstarter comes out. We haven't even talked when the Kickstarter comes out.
Okay, next week on Tuesday, September 19th. There's a few days left to become a VIP, a very important pirate. Basically, you pledge $1 now and you get access to a Discord channel where we're showing off content and asking people's feedback on the Kickstarter page. Plus, you always, if you back at a physical tier level, you'll get a Sharon's Opal D2 coin that we're making, and then you get that $1 back when you off your shipping.
Spoken just like somebody who said it a million times.
Yes, I have had delivered that more than once. And then we also have a back in the first 48-hour reward, which is a PDF of the Dark Caribbean port generator and a Lost Soul embroidered patch. And then we've got, I think there's 8 or 9 tier levels, and then anything in the Kickstarter you can add on as an add-on. Kind of a la carte style. So you can kind of build your own. We released them yesterday and we're kind of reworking everything to kind of fit what people wanted and expected and didn't get. So there's a lot of stuff in this Kickstarter. It's probably too much stuff, but it's just all stuff that I really want to exist, which is how we make everything, is we just want it to exist. So we make it. So hopefully people can take a breath, look at all the options, figure out what they want. Hopefully they don't, break the bank, and I don't want people to spend more than they can afford. But we, also know that everything we're making, we really care about and really stand behind. There's no cash grabs in this thing. So
yeah, I definitely would say that I've never seen you do cash grab. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how to do that. I don't. They don't sit right with me. Yeah. So
but
we actually, I was telling Wes this earlier, but we actually had a few tiers on the last one that were like, oh, for $500 or whatever it was, I'll draw a map as well. And we've cut those out because I found that they would just take away from projects that were for everybody. And and in the grand scheme of things, those small things don't move the needle for the community, and that's kind of what we're here for. So
also, I'm really love you.
oh yeah, like which one made you say that?
Well, the one in the I think you have the dark.
I think there are like 50 of them
There's
in
like
Fireborg.
tons of them.
My favorite in Fireborg is obviously the carousing generator on the front end papers.
Yeah, that
Like
one
tells you what kind of game it is when the first thing you see is the rules for carousing.
Right. Yeah, the carousing.
Yeah.
On the
We have one in Down Among the Dead it's a stretch goal, but it's a pretty low stretch goal, so I think we're gonna hit it. It's a Jolly Roger generator where it's like it's a handful of dice rolls, but it's like 2 D100 rolls to generate what kind of pirate flag you might have or what you might be looking at when a ship arrives. And I worked really hard for there to be an off chance of rolling all the real pirate flags.
Oh, cool.
So there is a chance you roll Blackbeard's flag, that kind of thing.
Hi, Jacob. Welcome.
Hi, Jacob.
So yeah, no, that's really cool that you can generate real pirate flag. That's
I like generators a lot. I mean, we also have a coral reef generator that's also a drop table where the dice that you use to roll on the tables, you drop them all on a piece of paper and trace them to make the coral reef. I'm a big believer in prepping and reading role-playing games is playing role-playing games. So I really try to, when I make things,
pretty much all my maps.
Yeah, it's just way more fun. And then you get these hooks that you didn't know you were going to get. Yeah, we have one that's the Dark Caribbean Island generator that actually was featured in the last issue of Knock. But but that is, you can run an adventure just off that thing. Basically it always makes the islands and tells you like what the weather is and the major points of interest, but then it also in the same roles calculates the two factions and their relationship. So you might have like a dormant kraken and a cult, and the relationship might be the cultists hate the kraken or the cultists worship the kraken. It could be that kind of thing. But I always love at GameholeCon last year, I had people, if they came up to the booth when we were slow, I would have them roll on the table and then I would draw the island for them. And I had people, they didn't realize the way that it works, but like the thing that sets the point of interest also sets the faction. So like if you have one that is a shipwreck, it also means there are shipwreck sailors, or if you have one that's a volcano, you might have a volcano worshiping cult. And so people will be like, oh my God, like there's a volcano and there's a volcano worshiping cult. And I'm just chuckling there like, yeah, because that's the same die roll, but they don't realize it when they're rolling it. So it's pretty fun.
That's really fun. Yeah, I've started using it. I actually used it to create Grimwood City for Ironbound game.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think the first time I really saw that used well was in the Black Hack second edition. He has a lot of cool drop tables in that. There's like one where you drop the dice to figure out how much loot is on the, in the horde. And if it rolls a 5 or 6, you look under that die to see, oh, there's a magic item or that's where you actually are dropping the dice onto a table that it's in the book, so I love that. Those kind of tools, man. I just feel like you're bringing the fun back into it for like, what it would be like to open it up as a kid or something.
We spend so much time as GMs preparing it. You got to have fun doing it.
Yeah, you do. And I think if there's anybody listening who hasn't played an emergent game, an emergent narrative game recently, that you owe it to yourself to try that, like where you don't know what's going to happen and you guys discover it together. It can be really, really, it can really make the fun come back for the GMs to have to like, think on their toes.
There's a whole lot of Morkborg people doing solo games. Are you thinking about making solo version of
Pirate so one of the books in this Kickstarter is called Cabin Fever. And that is a itch.io jam that we ran in May that had cash prizes. And it was the most contributed to itch.io jam in the Morkborg adjacent community. And it was so good that we decided to publish the winners. One of the winning entries, I think it was best writing, it was M. Allen Hall's Captain and Crew, which is solo rules for Pirate Borg. Nice. So this Kickstarter does have solo rules. I'll say he did a great job, but it's very different than what I think I would have done because I don't really play solo games. Like I don't know what that community is like. But I think we'll probably do a big solo game at some point. I know that Iron Forged. Those guys did Sundered Isles is coming out, or maybe the PDFs are already out. That is supposed to be a really amazing pirate solo game that you could run with Pirate Borg. What my more near ambition is down the road at some point, I would like to do solo rules for PCs so they can like play through the solo rules, and instead of rolling on all the random character trait tables and rolling for ability scores, they play through a solo adventure book to come up with those. Nice. So you could give this booklet or PDF to your players and they can play for a few hours or maybe a few sessions at home, and at the end of that they have a meta equivalent of a character rolled in the book, but they remember why they are I was lost my arm in a fight with a skeleton, or I'm smart because my parents are doctors, or like I don't know, however
an interactive background generator.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much inspired by Traveler, and that you can play, like my brother, for example, has never played Traveler, but he's made a bunch of characters because that character generator is so you get to pick whether you go back for another career, and that'll give you potentially a bonus or a minus.
Travelers.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a copy of it's the newer version, but I have a copy just to learn from it when we get around to that. So
I haven't checked out the newest version of Traveler. The only Traveler I've ever played is version, so I need to.
Yeah, I mean, I've only ever played once, and it was the old version. But I do own the newer one. So
it's definitely on my list of ones to check out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the, if you're talking about the core gameplay play loop in Pirate Borg, what's missing for some kinds of gamers is that, solo player deep dive. Like, you can't really build a character because they're either random or there's only a few options by design. So I really would like there to be a way for people who like really get invested. Like, I can just imagine maybe this is like a big booklet with tons of lore that you could play multiple times and really like be a part of the setting. And so when you come in to sit, I mean, of course, the downside would be you could still start with only one hit point and die in the first encounter.
Right.
But I think that's also part of the loop. Maybe you do it a couple times. So
yeah, I mean, in Traveler, you can end up dying.
you can die in creation. Yeah, we're gonna have that
creation,
in there for
so-
sure. You'll be able to die in creation for sure.
I mean, just that's if you're doing something like that, you kind of have to have that. Just
yeah,
for
I mean,
sheer
like
fun
I
of it.
said though, that's going to be a longer term project because there's a lot of things first. And yeah, it's potential that after Dark Caribbean, I'm going to be like, I need a break from pirates just to like, I find sometimes I get like lost, like I forget why I like pirates so much, and then
I do know I'm having that same problem with.
yeah, sometimes you just can't see the forest for the trees, is the saying.
Yeah.
But then I'll be like, I'll play Sea of Thieves for a few minutes, or like Pirates of the Caribbean will be on TV, or like, any number of things like that can spark it back. That happens pretty regularly. But I imagine after years and years of it being like my full-time creative gig, like sometimes when I come to write tables for like random encounters, I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do this. And I'll be like, I've done that before. I've had the, one-armed pirate who's addicted to ash come up and, like so you really have to kind of like go back through your own stuff and read it. So
Yeah, or adapt to other genres in that genre.
yeah. Oh yeah. We do that a lot. I mean, a lot of Lovecraft makes it in Pirate Borg, a lot of dark fantasy. And then, of course, probably more than any of that is like pulpy Indiana Jones kind of vibes.
Very much so.
So
All right. Well, we've been an hour. I think
great.
I've held you up enough. Everybody go and back their Kickstarter because they always have great books. And if you and we didn't talk about the starter kit that you guys are working on.
Yeah, I touched on it a bit.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah.
If you guys they are starting a starter kit eventually too, which is going to be kind of neat. It's going to be a starter.
It's in this Kickstarter.
Oh, is it in this Kickstarter?
Yeah,
it's excellent. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, because I remember I was saying that it's designed to work with your existing stuff. It's all add-on stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. I can't wait to back this thing.
Yeah.
Just take my money now.
My dog Yogi, he's been sleeping there but now he's moved over to here. So
just take my money, Luke.
Yeah. All right. I'll take your money. I'll use it to hire more great people.
All right. Why don't you hang on, Luke, and everybody else, thank you for being here. You have a great day. And this Friday we have Grimwood City. So and we have a new player joining. So come by and welcome them.